Okay, today we are starting Masechet Megillah Daf Tet. It says in the Mishnah, Ein ben sfarim v'tfilin u'mezuzot, ela shasfarim nichtabim b'chol lashon, u'tfilin u'mezuzot enan nichtabot ela ashurit. What are Sfarim, guys? Sfarim are the Chav Dalet Sifrei Kodesh that they have the definition of a sefer. Sefers have special halachas to them. They're called Kisvei HaKodesh. So, Ein ben sfarim v'tfilin, says the Mishnah, Ein ben sfarim v'tfilin u'mezuzot. What's the difference between the two? You can write the tefillin, you can write the Sfarim in any language you want. Japanese, Chinese, French, Hebrew, Spanish, any language you feel like. Tefillin mezuzah is a special, we'll see in the Gemara, a special halacha for tefillin mezuzahs. You can only be written down in ashurit. Ashurit says Rashi, Lashon HaKodesh. Okay? This is a very interesting Mishnah. Okay, so yeah. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Omer, what does he say? Af b'sforim lo yitiru sheyikatvu elei vanit. Even in Sfarim, in the Chav Dalet Sifrei Kodesh, the only thing that was permitted is Greek. So he's cholak on Tanakama. Tanakama says that you can write the Sfarim, the Chav Dalet Sifrei Kodesh in any language you want, French, Japanese, whatever you feel like. Says Rashbag, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, right? Says you can only write it in Greek, either obviously Ashurit, but out of Ashurit, which is Lashon Kodesh, you can write also in Greek. All right. Says the Gemara, we see from the fact that the Gemara said that this is the only difference, we see that in regards to anything else that pertains to Sfarim, they are the same. Both Sefer Torahs and Tefillin and Mezuzahs have to be done l'tofan begidin, with the veins of animals. There's a halacha which we've seen that we tie the cloths with gidin. Okay, this is what we use in order to attach the cloths. And l'tavis yadayim, like we've learned previously in the Masechet multiple times already, that Sifrei HaKodesh are metami yadayim. I mean, rabbinically, like the Gemara Masechet Shabbos says in the first chapter, that there's a rabbinical decree to be metami yadayim, any Sifrei HaKodesh. So we see that in regards to this, they are the same. All right, next Gemara. We said in the Mishnah, Sfarim nichtabim b'chol lashon. Ask the Gemara, we have a brace that negates this. Mikro shekos v'targum shekos v'mikro. Any verse that was written originally in Hebrew and was turned into Targum. What does Targum mean? Targum means Aramaic. Or the opposite, a verse that was in Targum. Let's an example, a great example of Targum. It says with Yaakov and Lavan, when they made the brit between each other, Yaakov called the piece of stone. He said Gal Ed, right? That God is going to be witness, testify to the fact that we are we made a covenant, we made a bris. And Lavan says, I'm not going to call this Gal Ed, I'm going to call it Yegal Sahadusa, which is Aramaic for Gal Ed, stone that is witness. I heard that the Ramchal, the Rizal, say that the reason why we have uncles in Targum in Aramaic is because we want to be Mekadesh the Tuma. Aramaic is Tameh, and the reason why we do Shtaim Mikra Targum is to be Metaher the Tuma. So we talk in these Tameh languages in order to translate them into Hebrew. So us, right now, when we're learning in English, we are also in the mitzvah because we are being Mekadesh, the English language, which is obviously very tameh. Okay. So bottom line, it says in the Brisa, any verse that was said in Hebrew that was transformed it into Targum, or Targum that was transferred into Hebrew, Uktav Ivri is a more ancient Hebrew than Lashon HaKodesh. The Brisa says that only Hebrew, only Lashon HaKodesh is the only thing that matters. If you don't write in Lashon HaKodesh, then it doesn't matter. That goes against our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that you can write the Sefer Torah in any language you feel like, and the Brisa says only in Ashuris. The Rava says an answer. Rava says that we have it all wrong. The Mishnah is saying that you can write down in any language you want, as long as the letters are Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, and so on and so forth. As long as the letters are in Ashuris, we don't care what language it is, French, Japanese, as long as the letters are being written down in Ashuris, we're good. That's Gufan. Rashi says Ktiva. Gufan means Ktiva. But the Bryce that says that it's all Asur is talking in regards to the Gufan, to the Ktiva. Amari Abaye, b'mayu kim telai. What do you? So how do you explain the Bryce? The Gufan shelahen. Why did the Brisa bring the problem is taking a verse from Hebrew and translating it into Aramaic or Aramaic into Hebrew? Why is that the issue? Afilu, you could have said something. You could have said a much greater issue. Afilu mikosh kos v'miko v'tal mishkos v'tal umnami del kotani ad shichta v'nashu v'salat v'vidyoy. So why did the Brisa say that the problem is from translation? The issue is not translation. The issue is the letters. The letters are not written in the right language. Why do we care about the translation aspect? The translation aspect is irrelevant. The correct way to write the Brisa, if you were here and you were trying to explain to me the Brisa, the right way to write it would have been that if you write it with the wrong letters, it's possible. Not that if you translate it into another language, right? Who cares about the translation part? Say how much greater chiddush. The ksiv is the issue, not the translation is the issue. So Abaye has a new pshat. Elo loikashia. Ho Rabbanon, ho Rashbag. The Mishnah is Rabbanon that are matir every single language, and the Brisa that says only in Ashuris is Rashbag. Ask the Gemara, which obviously you guys are probably asking as well. Rashbag. The Brisa says you can only write it in Ashuris. Why doesn't the Brisa also add Yavanis? So it cannot be Rashbag. Elo loikashia. New pshat. The Mishnah is talking about tefillin, and the Brisa is talking about tefillin. The Mishnah is talking about sfarim, and the Brisa is talking about tefillin and mezuzos. Ask the Gemara, tefillin and mezuzos my timing. Why in tefillin and mezuzos does it have to be only in Ashuri? Says the Gemara, mishum dichtiv behu v'hayu. It says in the Torah that vayu leot aledecha u'ktafot bein einecha v'hayu leot v'hayu. Hayu means that it will be this. The oral Torah says the Hayu is referenced to it will be in under this exact status and will not change. So, by the way, I've seen this multiple times in Shas. This whole the Hayu b'havayos and yeheh. So it's a very common theme. So you should get used to it now. Bottom line is that we have a Gzeras HaKasav that says that in tefillin and mezuzah, the only thing you can do is in Ashuris. That's why tefillin and mezuzah can only be done. That's the Brisa. Ask the Gemara, this makes no sense. It's impossible to Brisa tefillin and mezuzahs. Why? Says the Gemara, my Targum shekos mikrei iko. What Targum, what Aramaic is there in the Daled Parshios in the tefillin? Right, the tefillin have Daled Parshios, four different parshas. Shulchan and Siman Lamed Gimel, Siman Lamed Bet in the beginning. He tells you all the chapters, all the halachas, everything. Shulchan Aruch, very very detailed and interesting. Bottom line, there's no Aramaic in those chapters. There is no Aramaic. So what the Brisa is saying, if you have a verse that's in Aramaic and you translate it into Hebrew, it's an avera. Yes, you can't do that. You cannot do that. Now that's an avera, but that you cannot do that. What Aramaic is there in the Daled Parshios? There's no Aramaic there. So like Gemara, if we're talking about Torah itself, there is Ika, Yigal Sadusa, Elo Hocho Mai Talgumika, Elo Leikash Kan Megillah Chametz Sfarim. Says the Gemara, a final pshat. The Gemara says the Brisa is talking about the Megillah, and the Mishnah that says you can write in any language is talking about Sfarim. Ask the Gemara, Megillah my time. Why in Megillah can you not do it in anything outside of Ashuris? Also Gzeras HaKasav. What's the Gzeras HaKasav? It has to be in a language that everybody understands, and that's Ashuris. You cannot budge from the Ksav Kadashainim. Says the Gemara, my Talmud Shekos V'Mikro. Now the Gemara is asking the same question asked in Tefillin. If the Brisa is talking about the Megillas Esther, in Megillas Esther, guys, where do you have Aramaic? Yeah, because the Brisa is saying that if you take a word in Aramaic and you translate it into Hebrew, you can't do it. It's possible. Where do we have Aramaic in the Megillah? So here we're going to have two answers. First answer, Omar Rav Pope. The Nishma Pitgam HaMelech. The word Pitgam is referring to a letter, but Pitgam is a word in Aramaic. So we have an Aramaic word in the Megillah. Women will give respect to their husbands. What does Ikar mean? You should say Kavod. What does Ikar? Ikar is Aramaic. So the first answer, guys, of the Gemara is that the Mishnah is talking about Sfarim, and the Brisa that said you can only do it in Ashuris is referring to the Megillas Esther. Second answer of the kasha between the Brisa and the Mishnah. Ravashi Omar Kitanya Hahi B'Shal Sfarim. V'Rab Yudehi. Says Ravashi, the Brisa is talking about the other books, and it's referring to Shitas Rabbi Yehuda. So the Mishnah is talking about. So it's all under Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's authority. We're talking in regards to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. The Mishnah is talking about the Chumash, and the Brisa is talking about Navi and Ksuvim, and it's all under the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel according to Rabbi Yehuda. So now we will read it. I'm reading it again. Rav Shema, thank you. Rav Shema. Kitanya hi b'shal sforim. Rabbi Yehuda hi Netanya. Tefillin and mezuzahs en nichtavin el ashuris. Tefillin and mezuzahs you can only write them down in what language, guys? Lashon HaKodesh. You can't write tefillin and mezuzahs in any language outside of Hebrew. You can't write them in French or in English or in Spanish or whatever you feel like. But the rabbis allow you to write it down in Greek. You're allowed to write tefillin and mezuzahs in Greek. Ask the Gemara, it says in the Torah, the oral Torah says that v'hayu means that it can only be in this language, right? Instead of saying, Bryce is not talking about tefillin and mezuzahs, we're talking about sfarim. Sfarim, the Chav Dalet Sefer HaKodesh, can be written down in any language. You can write a Sefer Torah down in English, in French. You can write down the book of Shmuel, anything you want. You can do lechatchila in any language if you like. But the rabbis allowed us to do it in Greek. Ask the Gemara, if you say allowed, it's reference to somebody who didn't allow. Who did allow to write it? We said the opposite. We said Tanakam allows us to write in any language you want. Right? It says in the Brisa that the rabbis allowed us to write down in Greek. Well, duh. We just said that the rabbis allowed us to write down in any language. So why are you afterwards saying that the rabbis allowed us to say it in Greek? So there's clearly an issue with the girsa. So now the Gemara is going to change the girsa. It goes like this. Now we say the rabbis did not allow us. So this is who's the rabbis? Rashi clarifies. It's obviously Rashbag that the Rabbi Shimon Gamliel only allowed us to write the Sefer Torah, the Chamisha Chomshei Torah, in Greek. So guys, now being ksubim, you cannot write in any language outside of Hebrew, Ashulit, Lashon HaKodesh. The Sefer Torah, according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, you can write them down. You can write it down also in Greek. Vetanya, we have a brisa. Amar Rabbi Yudeh, so guys, now we see a very interesting Gemara. So there's a story. What's the story? The Tanya. Talmai HaMelech was an Egyptian king, and he had a wife called Arnevet, which we'll see later on. Yes. How do you say Arnevet in English? What are the skippy animals? Anyways, his wife was called Arnevet. So here we go. Here's the Gemara. The Tanya. Talmai HaMelech שכינס 72 זקנים והכניסן ב-72 בתים. There's a story that Talmai HaMelech, he wanted to clarify the Torah. He wanted to see that the Torah was real. He wanted to see that there was nothing going on between the rabbis who were having this scheme, that they all had it really, there was a structure and that everybody was following the structure. Not that the rabbis were grouping together and making up a bunch of Torah together. So what did he do? He took the 72 biggest Talmid Chachams of the generation, he put them in 72 different boxes, jail cells. And he told them, I want you guys to write for me the entire Sefer Torah from the beginning to the end, and then all 72 books if I want to see them. And if they're all the same, then I see it's the real deal. If not, then it's going to be not the real deal. So it will be a big Chil Hashem. So what happened? ולא גילה להן על מה קינצם, ונכנס אצל כל אחד ואחד. ואמר להם, כי סבורי תורס מוישה רבכם, write to me the Torah of Moses. You guys say that you have received the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Show me. Write it down. ונוסן הקדוש ברוך הוא בלב כל אחד ואחד עצו, והסכימו כולם לדעס אחת. God made a miracle, and even though they all changed the Torah, they all 72 rabbis changed the Torah, but they all changed in exact places where each and every one of them was picked. So they all made little changes. We'll see 12 little changes, and each rabbi made the exact change that his fellow 71 rabbis made, which is absolute insanity. So here we go. It says in the Torah, right? Everybody knows this verse. Very sad if you don't. So what did they do? They were worried that if they wrote down the verse Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, we would think Bereshit bara Elokim. This thing called Bereshit created Elokim. That would end up being a kfira. So us Jews, we have the oral Torah, so we're good. We know that we have the interpretation of the literal one. But since Goyim do not follow the oral Torah, they only follow the literal one, or that's at least what they accept. So then things are going to get out of place, and we need to make sure the Goyim don't do averas because of us. So what do they do? Instead of writing Bereshit bara Elokim, we wrote down Elokim bara Bereshit. Next change. Instead of saying that God made man and woman, right? One would have thought that means that God created both a man and a woman. And that's not true. From the oral Torah, he only made one person with two different faces. So they changed, they said, Adam b'tzelem u'b'dmut. Sorry, I skipped. I'm sorry, no. I didn't explain this correctly. Again, the verse says that God made humans in the imagery of God. I skipped to the fourth verse. The second verse says that God has made humans in the imagery of God. The issue with that is that Goyim would think literally that human beings, this is how God looks like. We think that literally God has hands. God, that's very embarrassing. So of course God does not have a body. So they changed the gears and they said, Not b'tzelmenu v'dmusenu, like it says in the Bereshis. Next verse, it says, V'chal b'yom hashishi v'yishvot b'yom hashvi. So in our Torah, it says that God ended working on the Sabbath. So one would have thought that God literally worked on Sabbath and ended on working on Sabbath. So no, we changed the girsa and we made it upset. We wrote down that God finished working on Friday to relax on Saturday. This is where I messed up. So it says in the Torah that God made man and woman. One would have thought that God made both a man and a woman, even though we know, and according to our oral Torah, God only made one person. So they changed those girsa and said Baram. Then in the next verse it says that God went down to look upon His creation. But it says in the Torah that God went down with went down with others. So one would have thought that those others are other gods. Really, according to the Old Torah, it's His Beis Din. God went down with His Beis Din to look at the Jews, at the creation. There were no Jews then. So the Torah, we changed the gears and they said, Hava erda ve'ebla sham sfatam. Next verse, it says, but Yitzchak Sarah. So it said that when Sarah had when she healed, her body became fresh again, and she saw that she could have a kid, she started laughing, mocking. She started laughing disrespectfully. Oh, God's this, God that. This is impossible, and that was a big insult to God. So God got very mad at her. Thing is that Avraham Avinu also laughed. So in the Torah, if you read the Torah without the old Torah, it sounds like God has favorites. God likes Avram and hates Sarah. But the truth is that Avram's laughter was a laughter of happiness, and Sarah's laughter was laughter of disrespect, of like, haha, impossible. So we changed the girsa and we changed it. We said like this, but Yitzchak Sarah b'korovea, that she publicized her laughter. She went outside to her friends, korovea, whereas Avraham Avinu only laughed to himself, which is why God didn't get mad to him. Next verse. Ki be'apam ha'gushol u'lutzonam akru evus. It says in the Torah that u'velutzonam akru shol. That's what it really says in Vayechi. That Yaakov Avinu is cursing Shimon and Levi for killing so many people in cold blood in Shechem, and it says that akru shol. But that way people wouldn't say that our forefathers are murderers. So they changed the girsa. We said ikru evus. Evus are animals. We only killed animals. Our forefathers killed animals. They didn't kill humans. Even though the truth is that our forefathers killed many humans in cold blood. Sadly. Yes, we have a very bloody and violent DNA to us. Vayikach Moshe et ishto vet banav vayirkivem al nosei. So we changed it. Instead of saying al chamor, we say al nosei bnei adam, because it's disrespectful for Moshe Rabbeinu to put his kids and wife on a chamor. What he did, a camel. So we changed the gear. So we call it nosei bnei adam, which is referring to a gamal, which is a camel. Moshe bnei Yisrael asher yashu b'Mitzrayim ubeshar aratzot 400 shana. So really it says that the Jews were embellished for 400 years, right? Now, if you count, it only adds up to 210, 400 years. So we have the oral Torah, so we believe that we know that the Galus started when the breach between God and Avram took place. But since they don't have the oral Torah, so they think it's literally when we went down to Egypt. So that's why we had to change the gears and say that when they went down to Egypt and other places as well, which means also Israel. But now it says that Moshe Rabbeinu sends people to do korbans for him at Har Sinai. After Har Sinai, according to the Ramban, whether it happened on the fourth day or after Har Sinai, bottom line is that Moshe Rabbeinu sends Na'arei Bnei Yisrael to do shchita, to bring korbans, sacrifices to God. So one would think that Na'arim is disrespectful. How could he send a Na'al to do this? You should send an old person to do this. So we changed the girsa and we say Vayishlach et Za'atutei Bnei Yisrael, which refers to the older people. And then it says the next verse, it's in reference in Parshas Mishpatim in Shvi, I believe Shvi, if not Shishi, I believe Shvi though. It says there that the Jews, that these the Atzilei Bnei Israel, also they saw God, and if we keep it to the normal girsa, it's referring to the Ne'avim that we had previously, actually the Sanhedrin, but they don't have the old Torah. So we change the girsa, then we call them Zatutei. Lo Chemed says that Moshe Rabbeinu also complained and said that he didn't take anything from the Jews. Why do the Jews think he's a bad person? So it says that he didn't take any donkeys from the Jews. So one would say, oh, he didn't take donkeys, but he took other stuff. So we change the gears and we say Lo Chemed echad mehem nasati. Next verse it says Asher chalak Hashem Elohecha otam le'a'ir lechol ha'amim. So really what it says, God put aside the sun, the moon, and all the avodah zarah for the goyim to serve. Now, if you take that literally, it means that goyim will have to do avodah zarah. Goyim will not to do avodah zarah. Though it's an Esor D'Oraisa for goyim as well. Shiva mitzvah bnei Noach. So we change the girsa. We say Asher chalak Hashem Elohecha otam le'a'ir lechol ha'amim. We don't say la'avod. Say la'ir. Next verse, it says, "Vayilech vayavod Elohim acharim asher lo tziviti le'ovdam." They add the extra word le'ovdam. In our Torah, it says asher lo tziviti. Now they want to serve gods that God Himself did not allow. So if we left it that way, it would have sounded like, oh, God didn't allow it, but it happened anyways. So we see that was real. So that's why we added the extra word le'ovdam. That you weren't allowed to serve them, and the serving is what we did against God. Not that the gods went against God to become gods, but that they weren't. The serving them is what happened. So it says in the Torah, in Vayikra, in Parshat Shmini, it says that you cannot eat the arnevet, the bunny. I believe that's the word, right? You cannot eat an arnevet. It's a Tamei animal. So they knew that his wife, Talmai Melech's wife, was called Arnevet, so it would be disrespectful if they wrote down the word Arnevet, because then it would seem like his wife is Tamei, and the Jews are laughing at him. So they wrote down instead of calling it the bunny, they called it Seirat HaRaglayim. Why? Because bunnies, they go like this. They have very long arms, right? But the legs are very tiny. So they're called the ones with the short legs, are referring to the bunny. Why? מפני שאשתו של תלמי הארנבת שמה, שלא יאמר שחקו בידי ויתילו את אשתי בתורה. Alright, next סוגיה. רשב"ג אומר אף בספרים לא יתילו שיכתבו אלא יווניס. It says in the Torah that Rav Shimon Gamliel said he wasn't matir only to write down in Greek. So he was matir to write the Torah, Lamaisi can write the Torah in Greek, according to Tamei HaMelech, according to Rashbag. Why are you allowed to write a Sefer Torah in Greek? Where's your source? How can you write a Sefer Torah in Greek? Says the Gemara. Okay, so before the source, first of all, what's the halacha? Says that God will make Yefet being Ohal Shem. Yefet is Greek. The Greeks can mean all of Shem. Shem is the great grandfather of Avraham Avinu and the Jews. So it says the Gemara, why don't we say also Gemara Magog? They're also the product of Yefet. That there's a special beauty in Greek. That's why, because of the beautiful language that Greek is, that's why the Torah permitted Greek to be written in Ohal Shem as a Sefer Torah. Next Mishnah. There are the original Kohen Gadol. How to make a Kohen Gadol? We have to do Meshicha. We have in Parshas Truma. It says that one of the Yud Gimel Devarim that the God commanded the Jews to give to the Mishkan was Shemen HaMishcha. Shemen, the wine. Rashi says Zayit Zach. Shemen Zayit Zach that we take and we use that Shemen Zayit Zach. We put it on the forehead of the Kohen and it becomes to anoint him as a Kohen Gadol. The issue is that Yeshayahu HaMelech, he was mevatel. He was gones all Shemen HaMishcha. So from there on, there was only the Kohen Gadol's were no longer Meshuachs. They were no longer Mashiach. Mashiach is the oil anointed. They were merubet gadim. They had lots of clothing on them. Why? Because a Kohen Hediot has 4 clothing, and a Kohen Gadol has 8 pieces of garments. So what's the difference between a Kohen Gadol that had that was Meshuach Shemen HaMishcha versus a Kohen Gadol that's only merubet gadim? What's the difference halachically? Says the Mishnah. There's a special par that if a Kohen Gadol says to the public to do something, and that something ends up being a vicious avera, and it's an Isser Kara, so the whole nation did an avera because of the Kohen Gadol. So there's a tikkun that you can do as a Kohen Gadol, where you bring a par haba and kol mitzvot. This par that only a Kohen Mashiach can bring, but a Kohen Melubim does not bring. We'll see in the Gemara that it's actually a machlokas. Okay. Next piece. In ben Kohen Meshamish leKohen Sha'orav el parim al Kippurim v'asiris ha'efa. Okay, a Kohen Meshamish is a Kohen that's a real Kohen Gadol, bona fide Kohen Gadol. The thing is that what's the halacha? Like the Gemara Masechah Yoma brings us. It's many dafs talk about. I believe in daf Zayin Chet. If I remember correctly, Tat Yud Gimel. I think Yud Gimel. I'm actually pretty sure Yud Gimel. It says there that a Kohen sometimes has some kind of psul. Like let's say he sees Kerry or whatever it is, and he needs somebody else to take up his spot. So that's called a Kohen She'ova. It's a secondary Kohen. Okay. So what's the difference between a secondary Kohen Gadol and a primary Kohen Gadol? Remember, the secondary Kohen Gadol is only there during the time the Kohen Gadol isn't actually there. Once the Kohen Gadol comes back, the secondary Kohen Gadol leaves. Says the Mishnah, Ein ben Kohen Mishamash Kohen Shalom, and Parim Kippurim Ba'asir Seifo. Parim Kippurim, there's a special a sacrifice that the Kohen Gadol needs to bring in Yom Kippur, his own sacrifice that he needs to bring. So only an actual Kohen Gadol brings it, but a secondary Kohen Gadol does not bring it in Yom Kippur. And a Sir Seifa, there's a special korban. There's a whole Gemara and Mesechah Menachos talks about this. There's a minchas chaviti that a Kohen Gadol brings, and he has to bring it once in the morning, once at nighttime. This mincha only an actual Kohen Gadol brings. The secondary Kohen Gadol does not need to bring it. Says the Gemara. We see that in regards to Parim Kippurim, the Kohen, the Merubah Gadim, and the Kohen Mashiach are the same. Because we said the only difference between them is in regards to the Parabal Kol Mitzvos. Says the Gemara. Masnising the Lekera Meir, the Rameir, Otani, Rabraisa, cannot be Rameir. Merubah Gadim, maybe Parabal Kol Mitzvos. So what do we see? That even a Merubah Gadim can bring a Parabal Kol Mitzvos. It's only a corner of Rameir. Vechachomim, which is our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is Chachamim. And a Mevi. So we just have a Mishnah. Ask for my time Rameir. The Tanya, it says in the Torah, Mashiach. Any Mashiach, B'Shimon HaMishcha. Merubah Gadim Minayin. Talmud Loimar Ha Mashiach. The letter Hey is to add also a Kohen Merubah Gadim, not just the Mashiach. Even the Merubah Gadim can also bring a Parabal Kol Mitzvos. So, the came to Lamaisa. What's the ratio talking about? The Loike Rameir, right? We said that the Mishnah is not Rameir, because Rameir said that also Merubah Gadim brings a Parabal Kol Mitzvos. Ema Seifa. We see that the only difference between the two is only in regards to but in regards to for Torah's Lamashal, right? And anything else the Kohen Gadol does dafka, like Rashi brings, and that actually happens to follow exactly Rameir's opinion. How do we know this? The Tanya, we have a brisa. Sheni kol mitzvahs kuna gdola olav divrei Rameir. So we see that the Sheni, even though once a Kohen Gadol takes over again, the Sheni still stays as a Kohen Gadol. So we see that that there's no difference between the two, only what the Mishnah says. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Risha Chazal Avdosah. Sheni anagoy lo Kohen Hedyot. The Sheni cannot be not a Kohen Gadol, not a Kohen Hedyot. We'll see that later on why. Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aseh Rabbi Yossi ben Berulam v'tzipor she'er b'psul b'Kohen Gadol. Why not Kohen Gadol Mishum Eva? Because if both people are Kohen Gadols, they'll start being jealous of one another. They'll start being competitive. And Kohen Hedyot, why not Kohen Hedyot? Because once you've elevated it spiritually, you cannot go back down. Says the Gemara. So says, what do we see by Maisa? That the Seifa is Rameir, the ending part of the Mishnah, that says that a Kohen Sha'avam and a Kohen Mishamish are the same exact things, and outside of the two, Asir Seifa and Parim Kippurim, they're the exact same thing. Who is that? That's Rameir. So the Seifa is Rameir. So what happens? Usually in Shas we hate doing this idea. It's just all over Shas. We don't like it when half of the Mishnah is one guy and the other half is another guy. We don't like this. We always want order and structure to be organized. Says the Gemara. Yes, this Mishnah is actually half-half. Rabbi Yosef Amar, second answer, Rebbe. The Mishnah is Rebbe, not Rav Meir, not Rabbanan. Rebbe happens to follow Rabbanan in regards to the difference in Kohen Gadol versus Kohen Gadol versus Kohen Gadol Mishra, and he follows Rav Meir's opinion in the difference between Kohen Shavah versus Kohen Mishamish. Next Mishnah. We're done with this. Guys, Baba Gdol and Baba Tana. So I'm giving you a little bit of Jewish history. We had when the Jews entered Israel, they had 4 different stops until they reached Jerusalem. They had the Gilgal, then they had Shiloh, where they spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years in Shiloh. Then they had Nov, and then they had Givon, and then they reached Jerusalem. Okay? So, Gilgal was a place where you were allowed to do sacrifices in your backyard. Okay? Then, Shiloh was a Mishkan. There was a Mishkan there, it was a bona fide Beis Hamikdash, quasi Beis Hamikdash, where you sacrifice your animals dafka there. When there's a Beis Hamikdash, when there's a Mishkan, you cannot sacrifice animals anywhere outside of that place. We'll see in the next daf why. Then, once Shiloh got ruined, they moved it back to Nov and Givon. Nov and Givon, they went back to doing Baba Gdolos and Baba Taras. Now, so remember guys, Baba Gdol and Baba Taras is only relevant when there is no Beis Hamikdash or no Mishkan. So if for Shiloh it's irrelevant, and for Jerusalem it's irrelevant. But for Gilgal, Nov and Givon, it's relevant. Now, there's 2 different kinds of Bamas. There's Bama Gdola and Bama Ktan. Bama Gdola is for Korbanot Tzibur. Korbanos that the whole nation needs to bring, like a Korban Tamid, for example, or a Korban Musaf, or Korban Rosh Chodesh, right? Or the Korbanos that we bring on the Chags. Then we have a Bama Ktana. A Bama Ktana is all the Korbanos of Yechidim, right? Like Nedavos, Nedarim, all the stuff that we bring, or when we mess up, we bring, or when Mechal Shabbos, or whatever we do, but the Zara, we have our own Korbans that we bring, that's for a Bama Ktana. So there's sacrifices for the Bama Ktana, and there's sacrifices for the Bama Gdola. Says the Mishnah. In Ben Bama Gdola and Bama Ktana, Ela Psachim. The only difference between the two is a Korban Pesach. Yes? Korban Pesach is the only difference we have between the Bama Ktana and Bama Gdola. Bama Ktana you cannot do a Pesach, and Bama Gdola you can do a Pesach. So, says the Mishnah, Zeh HaKlal, this is the difference. The Mishnah says, only sacrifices that you can do on the Nidarim and Nidavos can you bring to the Bama, to a Bama, but any sacrifice that you cannot offer as a Neder, as a Nidava, you cannot bring to the Bama. So the Gemara is asking this. Psachim etuloi. We just said that the Mishnah that you can only bring psachim. The issue is, why just psachim? Harei a korban tamid, right? 1 second. Right, we just said that only korban pesach. Why not? Why can't we can also bring anything that's not nidar b'nidav to the Bama Gdola, right? Like a tamid or a korban musaf. We just said that if it's a korban, and as long as it's a korban tzibor, we can bring it from Bama Gdola. So the Gemara, that's why we change eima ke'eim psachim. Ask the Gemara, who is this? Who's the author of the Mishnah? Mani. Says the Gemara, it has to be Rab Shimoni. Why does it have to be Rab Shimon? The Tanya, Rab Shimon Mel, af tzibu, even a korban tzibu lo yikrivu elo psachim v'choyvois shekalvu lem zman. We said the Mishnah that even a korban that you have to bring, it can only be brought if it's a kind of neder that has a neder nedava. But any korban that does not, you cannot bring it as a neder nedava, as in a korban chova, for example, right? Sorry, according to the Brisa, I got confused. According to Shimon, you can only bring korbans that are chova. Things that are a must. Things that are a must and that are not nidar nidav. The opposite. Sorry. Things that are not nidar nidav, like a korban pesach, is what you can bring to the to sacrifice. That says the Mishnah that we can bring animals that are not nidar nidavs to the Beis Hamikdash. So who is that? It has to be Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, because Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is the only opinion that we have in Shas that holds that as long as your korban chova, like pesach, right, then you're good. But if you are not a korban chova, if you are neder nedava, you are not allowed to be sacrificed even on a Bama Gdola. And that fits our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says that only korban pesach can be offered on a Bama Gdola. What is a korban pesach? It's a chova, not a neder nedava. You cannot be misnadev. Oh, I feel like I want to bring a korban pesach in the middle of the year. It's that structure. It's a chiyuv. That's why our Mishnah must be the Rashbi. We just finished Daf Tet and Masechet Megillah.